Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers. Welcome back, friends and foes, to the greatest action scene tournament. Myself, Evan Davies, and my lovely co-host from the Wisco Movie Watcher podcast, Dylan Davies, are here once again. We are cruising through our round one matchups in the greatest action scene tournament. Again, quick rules update. We divide everything in points of 10. So whoever gets the most out of 10 points is the winner for us personally. We add up both our scores to create it. If you haven't seen it already, we have winners from round one that may include things like Interstellar, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and a lot of other great movies are going to be in that. Go check out that former episode, or just check it out in single video form with every matchup. It should be a lot of fun for you, but we're here for the cruise bracket today. So we have our first matchup to waste no time. You ready to rumble in the cruise bracket here?
Yep.
We have the Burj Khalifa climb, or the whole sequence of the Burj Khalifa climb, from Mission Impossible 4 as the number one seed of the cruise bracket, taking on the winner of our play-in game, which was the warehouse fight sequence from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Mm-hmm. How did you score this one?
9-1 in favor of Mission Impossible.
I have 10-0 Mission Impossible.
Okay.
And you can tell that I'm not biased that way because normally Batman would win everything for me. So
yeah.
Why did you score it as high as you did?
I think, well, for one, there's a reason the Mission Impossible 4 scene was rated as like a number one seed.
Yes.
Like, it is one of the best action sequences
ever
out of all these. Yeah, like, it just is. And it's like kind of universally recognizes that now.
Yes.
I think we should clarify a little bit. What did you consider for that scene?
I considered the climb and the getting back in the window from going down the server room. That's what I considered that.
Okay, perfect. That's what I did as well. I just wanted to make sure.
Holy fuck. So what was interesting is I did all of my research in one day. I did all of my watching in one day and there were a couple scenes I didn't watch in one day, but they've been recent enough and I know them well enough that I can just pull them from my head. I rewatched Ghost Protocol was one of the first movies or first scenes I watched in succession. I'm watching it on the tablet I'm recording this on. And the whole time I felt so uneasy in the best way possible. I'll be the first to admit I do have a fear of heights. And so that does not help the case. This is in the middle of a movie. This isn't even in an end sequence.
Yeah.
And it feels so good as a movie watcher. Where you just, the tension is immediate. And you just go, that's where, all due respect to the first three Mission Impossible movies, they're legitimately great. They're a lot of fun to watch. Great's a strong word, but they're all fun. They all have good pieces. I should say this. They all have great moments.
Sure.
That's what I really meant to say. They all have great moments. They ebb and flow in quality, but they're all pretty good and fun to watch. Ghost Protocol is what takes that franchise from, oh, that's fun, to, this is, I have to watch this movie. If I'm an action movie fan, you have to watch Mission Impossible because these set pieces are incredible. And that's the one that takes that franchise from, oh, doesn't Tom Cruise make that franchise, to, holy shit, this is an amazing film for action.
And it really felt like this was the one that cemented the idea of, like, we need to make that one scene that stands out, you know?
Yes, that certainly changes everything in the Mission Impossible franchise.
Because then it felt like kind of almost like a dare to Tom Cruise to be like, hey, can you top this?
Yeah. And
that's pretty much what it felt like for him.
He's still chasing that, but he gets damn close every time.
Yeah. And it's just like, he's clearly just trying to get back to that adrenaline point every single movie.
Oh, I mean, also, if you haven't seen it already, there's a clip of Matt Damon describing Tom Cruise describing the making of that scene. Go find it. You've seen it. We talked about this, but if you're a viewer or a listener, Matt Damon describing Tom Cruise, describing the making of that scene is incredible. Where his first line is, "I've been thinking about this for 15 years. Safety guy said I couldn't do it, so I got a new safety guy." And you're like, that's the start of the story.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, it's amazing.
That's a good workaround.
And the fact is, if you have legit safety guys going, you can't do that. Like professionals, not like some fucking schlub. Professional stuntmen that are responsible for this, and they're like, can't do it. And you're like, I'm just going to get one until I find one that says we can do it. That should tell you how dangerous that scene actually is. And it's incredible.
Tom Cruise is also lucky that he's at a point where he can also be the producer of the film.
Yeah.
Because no one would let him do that if he was not a producer.
Oh, yeah.
The producers would be like, there's no way in hell we're letting our lead actor do these things.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise,
we'll risk a stuntman's life, but we won't risk Tom Cruise's life.
They're not going to like let up the insurance go against them of their lead actor doing that shit.
And
there's like the crazy ass fucking picture of him just sitting chill as hell up on the top of that fucking building.
It's wild. That's fucked. I've seen that, and every time I see it, my admiration for him as an actor goes up, and as someone who respects adrenaline junkies, I'm like, that's awesome. At the same time, I just go, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, and I feel so uneasy.
I'm fairly certain he's barefoot in the picture too.
He might be, and which again, even more fucked. Like,
I'm gonna look it up real quick. One sec.
Tom Cruise is out of his fucking mind, but it wins 19-1 over Batman v Superman.
Straight up barefoot.
Jesus Christ, that's fucking wild.
He's insane.
He is. So we have a 19-1 win over Ghost Protocol. We did talk a lot about Batman v Superman in the Bourne Ultimatum versus Batman v Superman play-in game, which you can find on episode 43 of the ONETA Show. With that being said, we did say we're going to talk more losers than winners, so we have more to talk about with the winners in the next rounds. I think the scene mapping and the action is impeccable in the warehouse fight sequence. And a lot of good mini moments. Guy pulls out a grenade. Well, what if I kick a human that I have hanging into the guy with the grenade and knock the grenade out of his hands? So you get the Batman workaround of, well, Batman didn't kill him. You're like, he kills plenty of other people in the scene that you can't have that workaround. When he grapple hooks the crate and whips it over his head and hits the guy into the wall and crushes his skull with that, one obvious kill, violates the Batman rule. However, that shit's fucking incredible to watch. It looks fucking great.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of great action beats in it. Yeah.
And I think you said your favorite part was when Batman actually gets stabbed, pulls the knife out himself, and then stabs the guy.
Yeah.
Because it just so angry. Batfleck is so angry.
Yeah. I mentioned this in the episode that we talked about it completely, but my big problem with that scene
is the joke
at the end. Any time it takes the air out of the scene for me. I don't like it.
There's movies that balance it. There's a few in this tournament that balance it. This one doesn't, because it goes from this. It's also the redemption of the character is this scene where he's made the turn to not kill Superman.
Yeah, I suppose that is supposed to be the point. Yeah.
And he's going to save his former enemy's mother to really like, and it's supposed to symbolize like him saving his own mom that he couldn't, and it's him coming back into the light that even though he is the king of the shadows and the ultimate creature of the night, he's always fighting for good. And he doesn't really do that in the first 2/3 of Batman versus Superman. He's just more motivated by, I should kill Superman. Which is wild. But you have all of this where there are, like I said, a couple workarounds where you can say, well, Batman didn't directly kill somebody. And there's a few too many times you're like, you gotta know you killed somebody.
Mhm.
But there's at least a transition where it's not clearly, I'm trying to mow everybody down and fuck everybody to the point where they're dead, right? And then you get to that, and she's like, oh, I figured the cape. You're like, oh, fuck. Man.
It's just completely not in line with the tone of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So, like, actually, a good comparison actually is the Mission Impossible 4 scene, because in that you actually do get a joke that actually really lands and is really good.
Yeah.
Because it's like when he's running down the wall of the tower.
Yeah.
And then it's the line's not long enough, and then
your line's not long enough. No shit.
Yeah, no shit. Like, that's an appropriate joke because one, the Mission Impossible series, that fits with the tone of the movies.
Yes.
Like, they are slightly comedic. They're not fully Zack Snyder serious the entire time.
Yes.
So, like, that's my problem with
I also like
the joke in the Batman
the joke
scene.
also lands at the end of the Burj Khalifa, where Tom Cruise has to snap off the line, and then Jeremy Renner's character catches him, and Paula Patton catches fucking Jeremy Renner. They pull him in, and then Benji's like, I did it, guys. It was hard, but I did it. And he just comes in just so tone deaf to what just happened.
Yeah.
And it works perfectly because A, it works for the characters, it works for the tone of the movie, but B, it fits and it lands.
And you also have a director that can handle comedy.
Yes.
With Brad Bird versus someone who I don't believe has ever laughed in his life with Zack Snyder. I can't imagine him actually laughing. So
he laughs at all the comic book nerds that want to protect their character.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, I guess.
He was on, I think this was right after I stopped watching Joe Rogan. When Joe Rogan, like, it was like right, like, so I used to really enjoy watching the Joe Rogan show or the Joe Rogan Experience, listening to it when it was pretty much just comedians fucking around talking about the craft of comedy, and then he'd bring on interesting scientists that actually had something to say and weren't quacks. He would balance it out a lot more, and Zack Snyder came on like right after I transitioned away, where I was like, this is getting too wild for me. I can't handle this. But I've seen multiple clips of it where he's like, the first thing you tell me if you say he can't kill, I want to make him kill people. And you're like, do you not understand the fucking point of the character?
Yeah.
Do you not get it? Like,
well, once again, it's just tone deaf.
Yeah, so he was very just tone deaf and would laugh, and he's like, I can't believe they take it so serious. Like, how could he not kill people? It's like, it's a fucking fictional work where you can do anything you want to. You don't have to make it super real and gritty. Hey, did Christian Bale's Batman kill anybody directly in that movie? No. And you can buy into it, and it's the grittiest and real of it gets. Even the Batman, you can say that. Like, it ain't that fucking hard. So, Ghost Protocol wins 19-1 in the most lopsided game of the tournament thus far.
Yep.
We're going to take it to...
And at one point, I gotta say, it was pretty much just pity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you gave it a pity point, because I went 10-0. This is a slam dunk.
I was feeling generous.
You were feeling clearly, because I had to fight tooth and nail to get that scene in the tournament. You're like, no, I'm not. And I had to fight. I was like, it's not about the movie as a whole. It's just the scene. All right, let's go to our second matchup of the bracket, or the Cruise division, I should say. We have the Big Three fight versus Thanos in Avengers Endgame. So we have Cap, Thor, and Iron Man taking on Thanos. It's right before the portals reveal scene, which is clearly the most notable moment of that film.
Mm-hmm.
And that is taking on the Dutch versus Predator fight, which is Arnold versus the Predator at the end of the movie. At the end of Predator. How'd you score this one?
So this is all up to you. I split it 5-5.
I went 8-2 Avengers Endgame.
Okay. That's fair.
So, why did you score it pretty even?
So, first off, it must be stated, I don't love Marvel stuff as much as you do.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I don't love it as much as most people do, I think. I would say that generally.
A lot of people are
Um,
aged. Yeah, I would argue that.
yeah. I love that fight. There's a lot of great moments in it. And I do love that like all three of them are getting their ass beat. Like that's fun cuz I love when it actually shows the hero not winning cuz then it actually shows some real stakes.
Yes.
So it says less about the Avengers scene and more about what I think about the Predator scene. And I just love the different variety you get in that scene where it's both like you get like a kind of cat and mouse kind of deal at the beginning, and then you get a stalking little bit, and then a little bit of hand to hand kind of stuff too.
Sure.
Like it's fun.
So here's what brought it down to me is this. There are a few too many moments in that Predator fight that take me out. That I don't, and they go the wrong style of 80s cheese, and I love 80s cheese. I love 80s Arnold. You know this about me very well. To the point where we've pre-recorded the vast majority of our top 100 series, and Dylan has been floored at some of the spots I've given to 80s Arnold action movies.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not as if I don't like this style of movie, right? I've never watched Predator all the way through. I attempted once. I fell asleep about 10 minutes in, and I woke up during the end credits.
Oh.
So I had to go. So I've rewatched this scene in particular. It is on my list to go watch. The reason I would give the 2 points to Predator, and it would, and I don't think Avengers Endgame, this scene that we picked, I don't think that is as good as some of the other big scores that I've given. Like, I don't think that's the T-Rex chase. I don't think that's the Burj Khalifa. Or some of the other stuff that's coming up. But I think this is more luck of the draw where it's going to look dominant versus something. In that, I think the reveal of the Predator, all-time great. That's iconic.
Yeah, and you get an iconic line right after.
Right.
Yeah.
The music going throughout that scene is incredible. Like, iconic music that everyone steals. Everyone steals the Predator music. Too much heat vision together, that really throws me off, where you start losing where you are, what's happening. And they raise the tone of, and they raise the pitch of Arnold's voice, so it sounds more like a weakened child or prey for the Predator. So you're trying to, like, I understand what they're going for. It's like, how does the Predator always view everything as prey? That's what they're doing. But it takes it out where it makes it sound, in my opinion, kind of weak and dumb. Where it's like, it's almost as if they kind of pitched Arnold with, I don't know, Bunny being chased and a little bit of helium from a balloon in there. So, but the heat vision was really throws me off because it's so consistent for like a minute and a half of the chase that I think you need to cut away from that, otherwise it loses the impact. That's my big thing.
Yeah. I mean that's fair. I also will say like I definitely will prefer probably the older scenes because it's a lot more practical stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're practical like explosions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that definitely does lean a little bit more towards my way of thinking, but I'm fine with. Like I said, it was a 5-5 split, so
Yeah.
I like both of them.
The other thing is the laugh that the Predator gives at the end of the scene.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Too absurd. It gets too much.
It is like so clearly just out of tone with the rest of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
it's so funny.
What drew, like, the reason I scored it the way I did was loved the reveal, loved the line, loved the beginning of the chase. Then the heat vision took me out. Then it got me back in with how smart it was, where you could see how desperate Arnold is to pull the trap. And the Predator's like, I'm not that fucking dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I'll just skip the trap then. And you're just like, I'm so glad that didn't work. So now he has to improvise something else. And even when he gets crushed, it's great. And the whole, like, the countdown where he has to figure out that his wristband is a bomb, all of that. And when he's kind of given like a weird alien laughter, I'll give it to you. But then when it gets so over the top, snidely whiplash,
Yeah.
that's when I'm like, I'm out. I can't.
Yeah. The thing I always point out about is like I don't even think that Alien would be able to make that sound.
Right. I think the first little bits of that laughter sound mixed enough where you're like, okay,
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
okay. But then when it gets to just clearly like someone doing a voiceover laugh,
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck?
It's hilarious to me though. That's why I don't mind it.
Again, discipline. We talked about this with the raid too. Show a little bit of fucking discipline here,
Yeah.
guys. I know the 80s didn't have much of it, but Jesus fucking Christ, show a little bit of discipline. But to just talk about quick positives for me, the Avengers Endgame, that is the textbook scene of a character earning a moment. Because it's cool that he gets to use someone else's weapon and gets their powers temporarily in the fight. If you've just never seen anything. When you've watched the MCU from start to finish, that is the Portals scene, I think, is the best, is the height of the MCU. I think it's the best scene they've ever done. Just because you get to celebrate everybody together. But in terms of the most earned moment, it's 1,000% Cap getting Mjolnir. I remember being in the theater with everybody, and the moment Mjolnir lifts, everyone's holding their breath because they know it's about to happen, but they're like, they're not going to do it. I'm even goosebumps right now thinking about that theater, and everyone's like, no. And then he gets it, and the whole crowd lost their fucking minds because it was earned. It took 10 years to do it.
Yes.
But it was just a tremendous way to do it. The fight scene by itself, good choreography. The character work is what, to me, brings it up. So, a lot of fun there. But Avengers, Endgame, and specifically Cap, because that's Captain America's scene.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wins 13-7 over the Predator. Arnold has been eliminated from the cruise bracket. Still alive in the Terminator 2 one, so we're good. Alrighty. We're going to go... Our next fight is the space debris crash from Gravity, taking on the water tank security system heist in Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation. How'd you score it?
I did 6-4 in favor of Mission Impossible.
I also have 6-4 in favor of Mission Impossible.
Okay. Yeah, this one was a little bit harder. I gave Gravity a little bit more points because like it's kind of a shame that it went up against something that I really, really love.
Yes.
Because I love this water tank
sequence. You fought for this water tank so hard.
I think it actually is my favorite sequence in any of the Mission Impossibles.
That's wild to me, but okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like the one I remember like being like
wowed by, dazzled by.
Yeah. Like I was like, it gave me so much anxiety in the theater watching it.
Yeah.
But
so apparently I have more fear of heights and you have more fear of drowning is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's a shame that Gravity went up against it because like the Gravity sequence is so much different than all the other scenes in this bracket.
Yes.
Like there's nothing on this bracket that is like the Gravity sequence.
So here are my quick positives on Rogue Nation. It sucked because I had to watch it almost back to back with Ghost Protocol. So
yeah,
to me it was like it sucked because it felt a little less than, and it shouldn't because it's an incredible scene on its own. It's just so different where the Burj Khalifa, especially because of my own personal fears, you just get that feeling in the pit of your stomach a little bit more. But the depth and skill it took not only to film that but to get the tension of that scene is wild, and also great character moments from all three, where you can see that you can see how determined Ethan Hunt is to not only save the world but also save his friend. You see Benji having to do all the tech stuff and get through.
Yeah.
And then you really get that first baby face moment from Ilsa. Where you get the okay, I know she's still gonna betray us, but
yeah, it's also
I like this woman. She's cool.
Yeah, great pacing in the editing.
Yes.
Where they're cross cutting between the three. Yeah, it's really great.
But going back to Gravity, I've never wanted to watch Gravity. Again, it's a movie that everyone around me just went, "Oh my god, Gravity!" to the point where I just went, "I'm out. I'll watch it 10 years from now."
No, yeah, honestly, it's hard to recommend because that was a movie. Had I not seen it in the theater,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have wanted to see it otherwise. In the theater, it was amazing because it was like such a big epic movie.
Right.
But like anytime I watch it at home, I'm always like, yeah, it's still like great filmmaking and everything. But
so here's what I said positively about it. I've never wanted to watch Gravity. That scene made me want to watch Gravity, or I will now go back and watch that movie eventually. I love how human that is in such a foreign territory. I also just watched The Martian for the first time yesterday, as of recording yesterday, with Ab, because she read the book The Martian. She's like, I want to watch it. I went, okay, I'll watch it with you.
Oh, you mean best musical or comedy at the Golden Globes?
Yeah, hilarious.
The Martian.
I mean, it's comedic in tone, but it ain't a fucking comedy.
No.
Ridley Scott doesn't make comedies. Come on.
Yeah.
So, Gravity, what I loved is how, again, it's the balance of human fear that allows something to feel tangible that should not feel tangible to a normal human being. Right? Where you understand the basic science of space. But you don't know, like, you understand 0.001% of the basic science of space.
Yes.
As a normal human being. Unless you're part of the astrophysics world with Neil deGrasse Tyson or all the other wonderful scientists in that field, right? Or all the other fields that involve space. But the human fear of, I understand something coming at me really fast and destroying the shit that I'm on.
Yes.
I understand the panic of, I have no way to counteract this.
That's the part that I really love is like, just like the littlest thing going wrong in space can have catastrophic fucking effects. Like, that's the thing that's really relative to people who don't really know space that much, is like, you don't really understand how fast things are moving out in space.
Well, what I loved is also a great joke that hits the tone really well, where I love that the scene starts and it's just George Clooney being George Clooney. He's just charming as hell.
Yep.
Telling a story about Mardi Gras. And then, Houston, we have a problem. And you're like, and you immediately see the tone shift in his eyes. Where he's like, talk to me. Let me know what's happening. They start going. And before they realize the full extent of what they're in for, half of North America just lost their Facebook. Which, it's not going to age as perfectly anymore, but it still ages well enough that people will understand it. And I love that, where it's such a human escalation where he's like, oh, we're in a bad place. Oh, we're fucked. Like, I love that moment. And then Sandra Bullock still being in that place where she's like, no, I need to do this. And he's like, no, you don't. Stop immediately. Shut the fuck up and get going. And she won't. And it causes her own downfall to the point where you still have sympathy for her because she's just stranded in space by herself. But there's that moment where you're like, had you just listened, maybe you would have been okay.
Yeah, and that the gravity thing is really something I would uh recommend going and looking at the behind the scenes,
Yeah,
because that's really a movie that if you go and look at the behind the scenes, you'll really appreciate
sure.
just how much of that movie is fucking visual effects.
Yeah,
It is insane how much of that movie is. Like, their entire spacesuit is visual effects.
that's
All of it.
wild. That's wild.
All of it. It's insane. Like, I'm gonna say 99% of that movie is visual effects, honestly. It's pretty crazy.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gravity is an incredible scene to the point where someone who hated on Gravity blindly is now gonna go watch it. I'm excited to watch it. So
Yeah.
12
Alfonso Cuarón. Yeah. He doesn't make bad movies.
12-8 in favor of Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation, and the water tank security system scene takes out the space debris from Gravity. And our next fight, it's going to be an interesting one. Very different styles, what we're accomplishing
Yeah.
here.
This is again one that you're gonna decide. I was split.
Interesting. I did not think this would be a split for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to go, we have the hotel fight in Inception. Most people would know that as the one where everything's turning all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Duel of the Fates from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And we talk about Duel of the Fates. The scene I've connected for you in this episode is a super cut of just the lightsaber battles. We're not worried about the starfighters over Naboo. We're not worried about the Gungan fight. Nothing. We're worried about simply Maul versus Qui-Gon Jinn. And
Mm-hmm.
I went 7-3 in favor of Inception.
Okay.
So we have a 12-8
perfectly
victory
fine
for
with that.
Inception. Well, I knew you probably wouldn't want Star Wars to win anyways. I'm just flabbergasted you gave it the 5 anyways, so...
Yeah. It was kind of hard because, like, at first I had it 6-4 in favor of Inception, but then I was like, other than the gravity effects of Inception, other than that, the scene is not really doing anything for me. So, like, it is just that effect.
But that effect is groundbreaking, so you kind of gotta...
Yeah. And I love, like, the behind the scenes of it, like, when you see, like, the rotating set and everything
Yeah.
that they were working on. It's awesome. That's really cool. So,
To me, what took Inception so high up for a difference of a win was the editing. I think the editing is brilliant because I understand, like, this is not a scene where you could just pick it up and watch it and understand the whole concept of the movie. But there's enough there with the cutting between the van and the hotel to where you can understand, oh, and you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the first back seat of it. So you understand, oh, so he's in a different place, but he's also here, and what's happening here is affecting him there. And that's the beauty of it, where you can have that, oh, he's getting, the van's being jostled because it's being chased. Okay, well, that's affecting the gravity of the hotel. And then when it's spinning, when it's falling off the ramp, that's the point where I just go, this is ingenious. This is the part that actually does it. Because if it was just the fight itself with the rotation of the hotel and gravity, I think, oh, that's really cool. But the editing, to me, is what takes it to new heights.
yeah.
Phantom Menace, I think Duel of the Fates is peak Star Wars in terms of action choreography of Star Wars.
I was going to say, it's probably my favorite lightsaber fight, but that's also not saying much. Unfortunately.
I would say my favorite lightsaber fight isn't even live action, so I get it.
Oh, I see. I haven't seen much other than
If
the movies.
if you're gonna watch anything, I highly recommend. You don't have to watch the whole thing. You can just watch. You don't have to watch all of Clone Wars or anything to get this. They did for the third to last episode of Clone Wars, second to last episode. It's one of the last ones they did. It's on Mandalore, and they have Ahsoka fighting Darth Maul. but they actually did mocap with Ray Park where they brought him in and did the choreography again. So that's legit Ray Park doing the choreography
Hmm.
again. Like, and that lightsaber duel is incredible because you're seeing Maul at his like finest potential where he's now gained some more discipline. He's now gained, but he still has all of his skill, and his will in the Force is so strong that even though he has fucking robot legs, you're like, God damn, okay, Maul, like fucking badass.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's great in that. So, but to worry about Duel of the Fates here, greatest piece of Star Wars music ever? It's a possibility.
Mm,
It's
see,
a, it's in the
I pick a,
discussion.
yeah, I was gonna say I pick a couple of the pieces in the original trilogy over it, but in terms of the prequels, 100%.
It Duel of the Fates is incredible. That opera, the choir. That's the thing. Just the tone alone by itself is really good. It's the choir that takes it to this whole new level
Yeah,
where
I really, I mentioned this in the last episode with Interstellar. Like, I love just going and looking at live concert stuff of like orchestras and chorus and stuff.
yeah.
There's like a lot of great Duel of Fates ones.
Oh no! The amazing part is I love how many times from European videos I've seen where a full orchestra is out there, but
Yes.
then they still put a duel in front of it as well with lightsabers, and you're like, "The
I have
fuck's
not seen
happening?"
that, but
I've
yeah.
only seen one or two of those, but I've watched a lot of John Williams conducting the Danish Symphony Orchestra or the
Yep,
London
yep.
Symphony Orchestra, and holy fuck,
Yeah, when they get like a chorus of like 100 people, it gets pretty epic.
it's incredible.
Honestly, I'd rather just watch them performing Duel of the Fates than watch this scene in Star Wars, honestly.
Well, the thing is that
Uh
the choreography. I want to say the positives here. I recently just watched the fuck, what show was that? It was a big picture draft from The Ringer, and they were doing the 1999 movie draft, but they had 7 people drafting, and they talked about Phantom Menace and a lot of their experiences in Phantom Menace because some of them were in college, some of them were in high school, some of them were right before high school, and they all shared a similar experience where you watch it after watching Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, and you're like, man, damn, this ain't Star Wars. And then you can kind of convince yourself that it is because Duel of the Fates is so good to end that movie. That you're like, oh god, that was incredible.
mhm.
And you leave with a positive taste in your mouth, even though you really don't. That's how good Duel of the
Yeah.
Fates is, to where if Duel of the Fates is not in Phantom Menace, I don't even know if we get a sequel trilogy to Star Wars. Like that's how good
Yeah.
the Duel of the Fates
I
sequence is.
I the whole duel party part of it, like the 2-on-1 fighting
Yeah.
is great. I just wish there was a different device that separated Obi-Wan from
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon.
Then just laser shields.
Yeah, it just feels very contrite and very like forced in there.
It feels
Like,
very video game.
yes, that's very true. Cause like I wish they had just choreographed an entire fight where it's 2-on-1. And then it's just Maul being better than them.
Well, it would have been really interesting to see, not even with the ray shields. You could do the whole thing and not have the meditation moment, and you can just see Qui-Gon, he's had to run the whole thing. He's been dueling with Maul by himself after Obi-Wan gets hit off of the platform,
Hmm.
and he's just trying to play catch up. And
Yeah,
you can
that's
play the
enough
tension
reason.
where
Yeah.
you can see Maul is better than Qui-Gon in a long-term fight because his shape, his conditioning, where you can believe Qui-Gon can take him as the equivalent of a master for so long, but he's tired and can't do it at the end. And you could have the exact same moment without any of the laser shields, and I think it's more impactful, like you said. Where you can
Yeah.
just see him running in desperation, be like, no, please, 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 please. No. Because then you could also have that moment of him pausing, and you could still have a pause there after he's dead, where he knows he's too late. He can stop, and Maul can kind of just bask in the moment and just say,
Hmm.
"I killed your master, kid. What are you gonna do?" Like,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
let you stare at me for a little bit because I'm just stalking my prey at this point. I'm
Yeah.
playing with my food.
Because other than that, the actual fighting and choreography, like I said, I think it's the best of the prequels.
I would say it's the best overall. I think the first half of the Anakin Obi-Wan stuff is the best, and
See,
then when they get into the swinging from the ropes and that stuff, it goes too over the top.
the only reason I say it's the best is because there's no wasted movement in the Obi-Wan, uh, Qui-Gon,
And Maul fight,
Darth, and there's so much wasted movement in the Anakin Obi-Wan stuff.
yeah,
Like they're
that's
just
one where
swinging at nothing.
the brilliance of that scene comes out more the nerder you are. And if you're a normal Star Wars fan and not a nerd, there's a lot of wasted motion. I can understand that argument.
Yeah.
But that is, I think Duel of the Fates is great. Also, such an obvious, again, the visual story. It's something that that's something that everyone should respect a lot about George Lucas. He is a phenomenal visual storyteller. He's not the greatest writer in the world by any stretch of imagination, but he's a fantastic visual storyteller. Where the second that door opens and you see Maul, you don't have to watch any of the movie. You can go, well, that's a bad guy.
Yeah.
You
Well,
immediately know.
he looks like a demon, let's be
I
honest.
mean, he's designed to be that, but it's the visual storytelling of these two in light colors, and then, oh, he has a red sword, has two sides, and he looks like the devil incarnate.
Yeah. Yeah.
What more do you need to know?
Star Wars is always very black and white.
And that's a lot of fun visual storytelling. But Inception's going to take this battle 12-8. Sorry, Star Wars fans. Like usual, we're going to piss you off. And hey, coming 2 months from now, we will have the Attack of the Clones rewrite, which will be wildly different from that movie. If you are a Star Wars fan and you're interested, I shouldn't say we. I rewrote Phantom Menace, not word for word, but a different scene map to get us to a different place. Had Dylan react to it. We had a lot of discussion about it. So for Star Wars Day, we're going to rewrite Attack of the Clones and have a similar issue. That is that. And let us know in the comment section how you believe Duel of Fates is way better than Inception. I'd love to hear that. Or all of your winners, frankly. Let's continue to the bottom half of the cruise division. Another gut punch here because I'm pretty sure I know the result already.
Yep.
We have the Wesley and Inigo sword fight from the Princess Bride taking on the Amon Hen fight, which is the forest battle in Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. How did you score this?
7-3 in favor of Lord of the Rings.
I also have 7-3 in favor of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You can tell from our reaction, we're both like, damn. In watching The Princess Bride, I'm going to give my 30 seconds of positive to Amon Hen right after this comment. In watching The Princess Bride and then actually studying that fight, it is remarkable how good that fight actually is. Because the storytelling of it. But fortunately, it's going up against a juggernaut that is going to be very hard to fall from. So you had 7-3 as well, so that's 14-6 win for the Fellowship of the Ring. I think there were 4 candidates that we brought up for scenes from that could have been the candidate from Fellowship of the Ring because they were all that good.
Yes.
But we went with the Amon Hen fight because each character, again, gets their moment. You have all this wonderful, not-in-your-face fantasy storytelling and world building, a perfect setting, and a character redemption that also raises the stakes of what's to come from the paranoia of the ring, and you understand it so much more after this fight. The Amon Hen sequence is fucking incredible. It's so good and so visually interesting.
Yeah.
Glorious.
Yeah, just because I don't want to over talk any of the like winners. I just think all the Lord of the Rings scenes are going to be hard to defeat because Peter Jackson is so good at giving every single character a moment in every fight.
Yes,
Like, he always gives a moment for every character to shine.
absolutely. That's the perfect way to say it.
Like, in every single battle sequence, he does it. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's fucking good. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's my favorite story of all time. I understand Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
man. It's,
Also, I just finished the books. Hot take. I think the movies are better than the books.
I also think the exact same thing. I think the editing process in the movies helps a lot. The final third of Return of the King feels less than because you've already achieved the ultimate goal. So once you've achieved the ultimate goal, everything else after that doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this before on the show. That's a community I'm very proud to be a part of, is the Lord of the Rings fan community. I know I would be tarred and feathered for that opinion, the wrong crowd of those fans. So I don't say that lightly, but I think the editing in the movies helps
Yes.
a lot.
I agree. Yeah.
Let's go to Princess Bride, though. With the Princess Bride, make sure I get my perfect notes here. Tone blending is legitimately perfect. There are stakes, you feel the danger, but it's still comedic. Excellent use of the terrain that they have. That set was built perfectly and used perfectly.
Yeah. And it's clearly not an expensive set, which I love.
And then on top of that, excellent character and dialogue. You understand those characters so well in moments where you get Inigo's arrogance so many times over.
It's arrogance, but it's also very charismatic.
Yes, it's charisma, and I love, obviously, the best moment of the fight is after Inigo's revealed that he's not left-handed. Wesley going, I'm not left-handed either.
Yes.
And within one move, parries, Inigo's blade goes flying. The character work in he does his hanging thing to get to his sword, and it just looks like a schlub. And then Wesley does the full spin around it into the flying backflip for the land, and you're like, come on. Yeah. Come on, man. It's incredible character work. Rob Reiner did such a good job directing this movie. And again, the use of the terrain, going up and down, using the rocks to your advantage. How many movie scenes do you see set in these really cool locations and they don't use them? For instance, we'll bring up the Raid 2 again. Virtually outside of the wine cooler, the wine fridge in the Raid 2, none of the rest of the kitchen, no part of the kitchen is used outside of that. It's just a one-on-one fight. It doesn't use its terrain at all. I keep going back to the Raid 2. I don't mean to shit on it because it's a damn good scene, but it doesn't use its environment at all. This uses every piece of the environment very well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like probably it's another scene. Well, it's probably one of the few scenes actually where it's not hero versus villain.
Yeah.
It's hero versus someone who you think might be a villain,
he's a tweener. He's a tweener.
But really, he also just becomes another hero, which is awesome.
But the thing is, it's perfectly balanced. If the tone is not right in this, that does not work. But the tone is balanced. You went, I like this guy.
Yes.
But I'm rooting for Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the time, you're not supposed to know it's Wesley. Everyone knows everyone knows it's Wesley.
Yes.
Even as a kid, when our grandmother bought this on VHS for us to watch at her house, which is why Dylan and I became obsessed with it, because we would just watch it on loop. We didn't have a ton of choices in that VHS catalog.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was Princess Bride or the second episode of the Green with Evil arc from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's what I watched in that VHS collection. So we pretty much just watched this on loop anytime we were at our grandma's house. And even as like an 8-9-year-old kid, I'm like, same guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull a wall. I'm like, I know that's fucking Wesley. I know it's him. So the reveal isn't But they know they don't pull the wool over the eyes of their audience. They let them in. They're in on the joke.
Hmm.
But the tones balance so well in that scene. Again, the Princess Bride. What a shitty draw to get the first round.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I do think it could have made a run, maybe even to the Sweet 16, if it got the right draw because of how well the
Yeah.
dialogue is toned, how well the choreography is done. I think it's incredible.
I agree completely.
So 14-6 win for the Fellowship of the Ring over the Princess Bride. And a gut punch was felt by all.
Hmm.
But from a gut punch felt by two hosts, we'll now go to a gut punch felt by one host.
Yeah. It's not too much of a gut punch, I should say.
We are going to go to the lone horror representative in the tournament. We have the Final Destination 2, which is the
The
highway,
opening sequence.
the opening sequence premonition, if you will,
Yeah.
going up against the armored car, 18-wheeler, and Batmobile / Batpod chase and car and truck flip in
Hmm.
The Dark Knight,
Yeah.
which is, along with Jurassic Park, the other one that I went, maybe this should have been a number one seed.
So I'm gonna guess yours is either 9-1
I went 9-1.
or
I went 9-1 Dark Knight.
okay. I went 6-4 in favor of Dark Knight.
Just because you wanted to give some points to Final Destination.
No, I actually full on love the Final Destination sequence. I think it's amazing.
So, let's talk a little quick on Dark Knight. Obviously, we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah.
However, it's got some tough competition in the next round. Fellowship of the Ring is going to be rough to beat.
That's true. That's very true.
And that is not, like, I did not think. If you force me to pick it right now, I'm going to guess the Fellowship of the Ring is going to win that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have told me the Dark Knight's going to be eliminated before the Sweet 16, I would have said you're out of your fucking mind. But again, it's the luck of the draw of the seeds, you know?
Because I actually didn't rewatch the Dark Knight sequence because, like, we had just watched it not that long ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know that scene fairly well, actually, now. But yeah, the Final Destination one. I know that one pretty well, too, now. I've seen it quite a few times.
So, the Dark Knight, again, especially if you've lived in Chicago at any time in your life,
I was going to say,
you understand the claustrophobia and the fear of where they're driving. Let me fucking tell you.
I was going to say, great use of a city.
Great use of Lower Wacker, specifically. Jesus Christ, you feel like you're going to die every time you drive on Lower Wacker. I will stress that every time this scene comes up on the show because it will make you feel it. Never been to Chicago, and you go to Chicago, find yourself in Lower Wacker, and you'll know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But beyond that, it's so many good character moments and great in-universe narration from the co-pilot of the armored truck, where he's like, what is this? Oh my god. But he's telling you what needs to happen for you to understand everything really well and map out where you're going so you're never lost. And obviously, the use of the Batmobile and the Batpod is just incredible, and you get the charisma of Heath Ledger's Joker, which never hurts. But we'll go into further detail. Is there any other note that you want to say really quickly on The Dark Knight?
No, I was going to say it's great use of a city. And then, like, the standout is how many great moments you get of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
Because you get, like, him pulling out the fucking bazooka. You get him shooting at Batman and, like, him actually wanting to be hit by Batman.
Yes.
Like, there's great moments.
Also, the tonal shift, too, is impressive. Where he goes from hit me to his own guy gets zapped by trying to take off Batman's mask, and then he goes full funny Joker again, where he's just making fun of him for being electrocuted, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Be like, that's the Joker. Greatest fictional villain of all time. That's all I'm saying. But Final Destination 2. I don't understand how this could have been scored 6-4.
It's great.
Or even 7-3. 8-2 maybe. 9-1 fine. That's what I scored it, but
Nah,
there is a clear delineation of what is better in my mind, and it is
it's a
not in
great
favor of Bliss.
sequence.
So, here's what I will say. I thoroughly enjoyed the Final Destination scene because I just started laughing.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But again, is that the design of the scene?
I don't know.
So it's super gratuitous, which I'm not inherently against, but again, the tone has to be balanced. I'm with it and how ridiculous it is through the guy getting chopped in half and crushed by his own motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty much like, okay, this is really fun. And then it jumps the shark when then everyone just keeps sliding into another explosion. And you're like,
Well,
how is everything exploding? How is everybody sliding into shit?
that's
No one slowed the fuck down.
and that's the premise. Like everyone that is in the plot needs to die.
Yeah.
Like so, that's just a conceit of the premise.
Oh, God.
Um,
It's fucking
also,
hilarious, though. I'll tell you.
did you recognize the guy in
It's
the
Devin
hot
Sawa.
rod? No, the guy in the hot rod is
Oh no, the guy in the hot rod.
who
I'm sorry.
who starts on fire. He's
He looked very familiar.
he's Chuck Wheeler from Snow Day. Remember him?
No, but now that you say that,
Where he's like he's dating Claire. He's like the douchebag boyfriend of Claire.
oh yeah, vaguely.
Yeah,
Vaguely.
if you look him up,
First of all, Snow Day is a very deep cut lore in Dylan and I's upbringing. Like, quickly, just because it's here, we're never going to talk about this, so I'll just tell the story now. We went to Las Vegas for a vacation as kids.
yes.
Because our aunt and uncle lived in Vegas. And it was very, like, that's the one and only time we've ever seen that aunt and uncle, except for, like, one other time at a funeral. So, we didn't really know our Uncle Sal and Aunt Cindy, right? And so, this is our one night where we're going to, like, meet them and do all this stuff. And they took us to a random theater in, like, a mall complex in Las Vegas in April to watch Snow Day. And I just remember watching Snow Day, having a grand old time, and then there was like a giant, like, 5-story play place with a giant ball pit, and then Dylan and I were refused. We weren't allowed to go in it, and we had to go eat our high cuisine meal at McDonald's on the way home. But a deep cut lore for just like, talk about a movie that doesn't fit where you are at the time of year to see it for the first time.
Yeah, that's very true.
Snow Day in spring in Las Vegas. Like, makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it's a very deep lore cut of Dylan and I's childhood.
Yeah. He's the one who starts on fire in this sequence.
Yes, it's so, going back to Final Destination 2. The log coming off is iconic, and it's scarred an entire generation where people I don't have that feeling, but even I've never watched Final Destination 2 prior to watching this scene. Even I know there's been 3 or 4 times in my life driving in, like, northwestern Wisconsin or other areas where there's national parks and there's a logging truck nearby. Mm-hmm. And the first instinct I have is pass him. Just pass him. And
you don't want to stay behind that.
Come hell or high water, I'm passing this truck. Because of the fear of, well, what happens if one of those fuckers comes off that truck? Like, shit's going down, and it ain't going to be good for me. So you understand that. As someone who's also always trying to pass every 18-wheel truck at all times because he doesn't feel safe around them, because I don't trust half the drivers.
Yeah.
I get that scene a lot. But the cop spilling the coffee, looking up, and then getting a log to the face. Also,
the log going through the windshield is awesome.
It's fucking wild, dude.
And then when it goes out the back and it's all bloody.
The other thing is, I was about to say, I love it. Is there too much blood in that scene? Where you're like, I don't think there's that much blood in that man's body, but sure.
I think I think it would probably be about that much.
But it's hilarious nonetheless. But
And
again,
then you get
am I
yeah,
supposed to
you
be afraid or am I supposed to be laughing? Because I was just
I
like, "That's
yeah,
awesome," and laughing.
because the Final Destination, you always have like little setup, little clues to how all the little things are going to go wrong. So you have like the kid playing with the water bottles, and eventually one of them gets stuck under the brake, so
Yeah.
his mom can't brake.
Oh,
So
I
like
loved the red truck up against the 18 wheeler. The kid just doing this with the trucks in the passenger
yeah,
seat. I love
yeah,
that. You're like, that one. I was like, if there's ever more obvious foreshadowing, I couldn't tell you.
yeah. There's the Final Destination. The, all of them except the fourth one. The fourth one, the disaster in the beginning is like absolute garbage because it's just like a. It was in that 3D craze of the
Oh,
early 2010s, you know,
early, late aughts, early tens,
and
where
it was
everything had to be in 3D.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was the ugliest scene of all time. It is so ugly, but the fifth one has a really great one too on a bridge. But yeah, the second one definitely is the standout.
Again, I'm with it until the I'm all the way for it until the guy is he's been hurled off his motorcycle. He should already be dead because he's just like flat back up against a log
Oh
or
yeah.
and then his own motorcycle continues to slide from I believe an explosion if I remember correctly and then it cuts him in half. Like his
Mhm.
motorcycle colliding with him essentially cuts him in half. And then after that it's just like how many more cars can we get to slide into an explosive material?
Mhm. See, I'm with it up until the last truck just continues driving through all that
Exactly,
wreckage
exactly.
for no reason.
For no reason whatsoever. Um, again, it's fun. It's an enjoyable 4 minute scene. I'll say that. Does it make me want to go watch the rest of Final Destination? No. But
Yeah.
is it fun? Yes, it's a lot of fun. It just ain't Dark Knight. So 15-5 victory for Dark Knight here. We'll go to our penultimate match of both this show and the cruise division. We have the nightclub fight sequence in the original John Wick going up against the bank robbery chase or the post bank robbery chase in Heat, starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Also, I've said Heat too many times in the past couple weeks because I've been answering the question like, oh, oh, you said you watched all these movies because we went on vacation recently. All our friends, Heat. Oh, you mean with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy? I'm like, no, I mean with Robert De Niro and Al
Yeah.
Pacino, not fucking Sandra Bullock
Yeah.
and Melissa McCarthy. Very different tone of movie.
Yes.
So how would you say how'd you score this one?
I was split. I said 5-5.
I went 7-3 John Wick.
Okay. Um so the Heat one, it's tough because I really love the sequence up until the point guns start firing. Cuz it's like it's kind of like the Alfred Hitchcock thing where like if you see a bomb under a table and you show that at the beginning of the scene,
Yeah,
that builds tension. And that's the whole scene. You're just waiting. It builds suspense. You're waiting for that bomb to go off
right.
rather than you just have a bomb go off at the beginning of his scene,
Yes.
right? So it's like they're building the tension of this bank robbery, building it. But then, like, once the guns start firing, I just go, oh, okay. Well, now it's a shootout between them and the cops.
Yeah, there's no build to the shootout. And
Yeah.
also so yeah, we're already on Heat. So I'll discuss what's good and bad about Heat in my opinion.
Oh, actually, yeah. So you're the decider on this.
So yeah, again, I went 7-3 John Wick.
Yeah.
So I recently watched Heat. It was a double feature. Well, actually, it was a quadruple feature night over at the good old Davies
Nice.
Melvin household because Ab was gone that day. So I watched Heat, The Sound of Music, The Sting, and Sicario all on one night. So it was a
Yeah,
four-peat of movies I've never seen.
that's a good that's a good night.
So also back to back, Heat and Sound of Music was wild
Oh, I
because
bet.
one moved at an incredible pace and one moved at a snail's pace, and Heat was the one that moved at a snail's pace. So
Eh,
I
that's a good thing.
not always. I'm usually here for a slow burn. That's too slow a burn for me.
No, no, I'm saying I think Sound of Music is the longer movie,
Yeah,
so at least that one moved quicker.
yeah. So or it's right. It's almost like a dead Heat because Heat is like 258, and I want to say Sound of Music's like right around the 250 mark, somewhere
Oh
around there.
shit! I didn't realize. Yeah, Heat is 250. Holy shit!
Oh yeah, no, exactly. So
It's been a long time since I've watched that full
well,
movie.
ironically, I spread the word that we were doing this in my friend group and other stuff, and in the friend chat. 4 days later, after I posted the little video about, hey, we're doing this and whatever, I got the yo is the bank robbery scene from Heat in. I was like, of all the scenes that my friend group could have brought up, I was not thinking it was going to be the bank robbery from Heat.
Hmm.
But there's a whole swath of people that love this scene and think it's one of the greatest action scenes of all time.
I I really love it up until they get out into the car and
So,
they start firing guns.
well, that's my issue. Is the bank robbery itself is fun, but I don't think the bank robbery merits getting into this tournament. And then the shootout is what I think merits getting into the tournament, but I also think the shootout is part of the weaker stuff because then it's just what's good about it is the cacophony of the whole situation where they are constantly being made to shift their plans throughout the city. They have to shoot out with innocent people essentially. All that's great. Val Kilmer takes one. Spoilers. We should have said spoilers at all of these episodes, but whatever. He's 30 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So, like, you're getting this whole thing of the chase through, and everyone's just shooting machine guns at each other. But I think it takes too long. The impact isn't felt because the suddenness and the chaos of it all is really interesting. But then it just keeps going and going and going, and then it turns into just kind of a personal chase between Pacino and De Niro. So it's tough because I feel it loses the impact the longer it goes. And again, maybe cut that by a minute or two, have the shootout, and you're golden. But it just continually goes, and it's hide, say a word, take a bunch of shots. Hide, word, take a couple shots. And it just keeps going that way. There's not a ton of variety in the actual sequence itself.
So your complaint is kind of the same thing as a lot of these, where it just kind of overstays its welcome.
It overstays its welcome. And the funny part is this: is
Yeah,
when I watched
that's fair.
when I watched in John Wick. So I shouldn't say this just yet. I think the shots, the facials, and the panic of Los Angeles, that's all tremendous in Heat. You can't take that away from it. It's a great scene.
Hmm.
But in comparison to other stuff, overstays its welcome, whatever. But I love the facial reactions. The other thing is, one of the greatest issues I have with Heat is also addressed in that scene, where there's a whole 20-minute subplot of the guy getting out of prison, trying to find his way in the world. He's the driver, and he gets shot immediately. And you're like, what the fuck was the point of half of this? Just show a crew member in the fucking dinner scene. 20 seconds, and it cuts a bunch of stuff out of the movie that you don't need. And you got, or 15 minutes, you got a much more pleasurable movie to watch. So that again is addressed in this scene. So that's why I don't want to come off too negative. It's a great scene. The chase elements are very good. The facial reactions and cinematography, everything is tremendous. It just overstays its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't have a ton of variety to it. Where in John Wick, what was interesting is I watched the full 10-minute sequence from the time he puts the gun to Kevin Nash, which, by the way, too sweet. Love having Kevin Nash appear in a movie, because who doesn't like Big Daddy Cool? So, which was fun to see, but the tonal shift where he's going through the bathhouse section, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all very calm, and he's almost reserved, and just one shot done, one shot done, and they're teasing you. They're like, "Oh, this is Baba Yaga," but this is not full on John Wick yet, and it just keeps escalating, and the lighting is perfect.
Yeah, it's really like fun lighting, I would say.
It's great lighting, and then the transition where when everything goes to hell, the music shifts, the tone shifts in the characters. John's far more animated. It's tremendous. And there's a ton more. Like, what's so funny is we've already complained about the variety in John Wick not having that much variety. That scene in itself
Mhm.
has a lot of variety in the way he's interacting with people, the way he makes kills, the way the scene is set up. So that's why I went with John Wick on 12-8 victory.
So, uh, if I didn't have this big complaint, it would have been 7-3 in favor of John Wick. But I have this big complaint in that scene, which is there's this really big moment that I really love where John Wick makes eye contact with Theon Greyjoy,
Yeah,
Alfie Allen,
yeah.
and he looks him straight in the eyes, and then he shoots the guy pinned under him straight in the head. But then immediately after, so that would like kind of infer, or like you know yeah, it would infer that like, hey, this is going to be personal. I want to grab you and beat like the living shit out of you.
Yes.
Like, this is personal. I want to kill you in a torturous way.
Yes.
But then immediately after that, it contradicts itself by John Wick starting to shoot at him. So it's like you literally had the opportunity to shoot him when you made eye contact with him. Why not just
So
shoot?
I think that's an interpretation thing because that's one of my positives of the scene. I love when Alfie Allen has him at gunpoint. John has him at gunpoint. And then I was going to say fucking Theon Greyjoy over here.
Mm.
He puts the gun down because he knows he's fucked. And John, instead of taking him out now, he's just like, no, no, no. I want you to watch.
Yeah.
I want you to lock eyes with me and see that no matter what you do, no matter where you go, not only am I going to kill you, I'm going to kill everything and everyone that's important to you. Simply because you killed my dog.
No, see, I would love that.
And I
I just wish,
love the quick as he's
I just,
locked eyes. He doesn't even
yeah,
care about what he's doing. I love that.
I just wish he didn't start shooting at Theon running away later.
Yeah, sure.
Because then it would be like, okay, then I want to catch him and make a personal kill.
Yeah, it would have been cool if
That
he
would,
would just kneecapped him. It would have been fun.
yeah. Other than that, I really love the scene.
Yeah, but I think that scene's incredible. We'll talk about it more, obviously, in the next one. But 12-8 victory for the original John Wick. Which that scene is, I also want to say, though, that scene also, that's the establishment of an icon. Where
Yeah.
undeniably John Wick is an icon of action movies now.
Yes.
Or just movies in general. Everybody knows John Wick now. And that's the sequence that makes him an icon. That you just go, it's fucking Baba Yaga, man. So 12-8 victory for John Wick. And we're going to continue with some more John Wick love as our final matchup in this episode. And the final matchup in the Cruise division. We have John Wick 3 Parabellum. So it's the Casablanca fight/escape, where it's John Wick, Halle Berry's character with her two dogs. They have to escape the compound. Going up against King Kong, 2005's King Kong, where it's King Kong versus the three T-Rexes. How would you score
I
this one?
actually want to hear yours first because I'm curious.
I went 6-4 John Wick 3.
Okay. I went 7-3 King Kong.
Okay, looks like King Kong is going to take it then. I have concerns about the King Kong scene that I don't with John Wick 3. So
this, again, same complaint I have about most of the John Wick scenes.
Hmm?
It overstays its welcome. It's too long. and it again, it's a later John Wick sequel, so it's like gets a little bit too ridiculous at points.
Sure.
Also, we talked about this with the Revenant with like animals. Wherever there's an animal on screen, I'm rooting for the animal to win, obviously.
Sure.
But also, I don't want to see dogs being violent. It's just a personal thing about me. Like
It.
even
I get it. I'm okay with it when it's just a dog fucking up a human. But yes,
yeah,
I understand.
e-
It's tough.
yeah, even if it's a dog like going to town at a guy you know is bad, like I still don't want to see a dog being violent.
Sure.
So
I
that's
think
just a personal taste thing.
I think that's fair.
Um, and then again, the King Kong scene, I just gave more points to because there's not anything like it on this bracket.
Very fair.
Like,
It's big CGI creature versus big CGI creatures.
yeah, like there's a lot of scenes like the John Wick shootout.
Fair. I think that's very fair. So let's cover John Wick and then I'll go King Kong. So I love the as someone who does appreciate the style of John Wick, although I understand I understand the fatigue with it. I don't have fatigue with John Wick until John Wick 4. And even still I love it. It's great. But that's the first time I ever went, I don't know if we can do much more.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I'm interested in the ballerina, because I want to see what they're going to do with it, but I'm also like, you're also playing in a world where you've done 4 things that you had to continually keep upping the ante, and how much more can you up the ante, right? So what I love about John Wick 3 is you don't have any components in that fight that aren't fresh. Like, you've never had John actually be able to fight with an equal that have to have each other's back. That I really appreciate. I think all the stuff that they do with the dogs is really interesting and really fun. I understand the reservations, and even I get a little like, I don't always want to see dogs being violent. But I will say, if we're in a John Wick movie and the whole thing is a guy was wrong because they shot his dog, anytime a dog can just take out a human, I'm like, I'm for it. I'm okay with
no,
it.
like yeah, when he shoots a dog, he deserves to die, 100%.
1,000%.
Even if
So
he doesn't kill the dog, he deserves it.
exactly. So it is really interesting to see. I think Halle Berry gets to shine a little bit and that's why I think it doesn't feel so. To me, it doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome that much because they spend so much time with Halle Berry in that scene that it doesn't feel like, oh, well, John's going to take this guy out, and then John's going to take that guy out, and then John's going to somehow survive something impossible to survive, and all this kind of stuff. They focus a lot on the other 3 components to the fight scene on the babyface side versus John. So that's to why I like that. I just love the variety in using how you can see that John Wick and Halle Berry's character were trained in a similar fashion, but there's these subtle differences in what they're doing that they have this different attack style, which I also think is a really fun character element to it. Yeah, and anytime you could see a dog leap through a Jeep and just fucking rip a guy's throat out, that's cool. That's metal. So, yeah, that's what I would say about the John Wick 3 fight. I would have been curious had we picked the 3-on-1 fight from the end of that movie, had that would have done better for you. But it seems like you're kind of over John Wick in general.
Yeah. I think it's just because that style, I've seen so much of it. And really, John Wick kind of helped create it. So it's like kind of a downfall of its own making.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just kind of fatigue at this point.
Sure.
Just like Marvel fatigue or anything else. You see enough of it, you just go, I think I've seen enough of it.
Fair. Quick positives from you on King Kong.
I mean, one, I love that he's trying to fight the T-Rexes while also protecting the human, the girl.
Yep.
And also, I mean, 3 T-Rexes versus 1 King Kong. I mean, it's pretty radical in terms of a concept.
Yes. I think it's very fun. I do think the protective elements in it are really cool, and it's great character work. To try to gain sympathy for a giant gorilla is tough.
Like, I like when he's passing her between, like, his different, like, his hands, his feet. Yeah, that stuff.
That I think it's interesting. First of all, I think she would have been dead within 5 seconds getting ragdolled like that, but
100%.
Movie magic will let it slide. It's when they get tied up in all the vines, that's when I go, I think this is a little too far for me.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's definitely better when it's, like, on the land.
So
that part's 100% better.
So that's where that's why I was like, I'm going to go with John Wick 3. There's something more tangible about this that doesn't feel jump the shark yet. Where when they're in the vines, I was like, this is a little much for King Kong. Yeah. But again, CGI is incredible. All 4 creatures look great. You really get King Kong's motivations out of this. Naomi Watts is doing a good job in reactions. I just wish there was actually more focus on her a little bit more. Like true close-ups, give her, instead of like a flash of a half of a second, give 5 to 10 seconds to build what she's feeling. And I think that scene would have done even more. But again, Peter Jackson does a good job mapping out each character, what they're doing in the sequence. So King Kong takes it 11-9. And that is our full round 1 for our cruise division. So, again, we have the Burj Khalifa climb from Mission Impossible 4 took out Batman v Superman's warehouse fight sequence 19-1. That's going to take on Avengers Endgame, Big 3 versus Thanos. We have the water tank security sequence in Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation taking on the hotel fight from Inception. We have the Amen Hen, which is the forest fight at the end of the movie from Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, taking on the truck flip and truck chase from The Dark Knight. Ooh, that's going to be a dagger to my heart either way. And then we have the original nightclub sequence from John Wick, or from the original John Wick, taking on the 3 T-Rexes and King Kong fight from 2005's King. Some good matchups here. You're starting to feel, Fellowship and Dark Knight. That's a...
Yeah, I wish it was one of those flipped with John Wick.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Or even, that it would have been nice to be able to flip those. But again, that's why we talked about it in the last episode. After this, we'll probably rank them. We'll stack rank them, which ones are in order. And you're going to see something like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's going to be higher than a first round elimination. That's stacking, probably. And the Dark Knight or the Fellowship of the Ring certainly will not be a casualty of round 2 in our matchups. It's just luck of the draw where stuff went. As will be Princess Bride. It won't be as low as a 64 loss, most likely. But you never know. That is our entire show today. This is kind of a 2-parter with part 1 coming out earlier today. This has been another edition of the ONETA Show. Tell us who you think should have won. That'd be great. We want to see your comment section. Tell us what you think we got right and what you got wrong. And also, if you want to use the 10-point split, it'd be great to let us know that. To continue the round of 64, check out Saturday. We'll be going to the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast, and we'll be taking care of the Weaver bracket and the Arnold bracket. Then you can see what movies are in that already from our previous episodes of the ONETA Show, where we review the entire tournament bracket and our playing games. That's episode 43 of the ONETA Show. So go check that out. Whew. We're doing the Lord's work here, Dylan.
Yeah, quite a few scenes.
The round of 64 is exhausting because you're like, God damn, this is good after good, but now I have to really give some pathos and thought to this. So it's interesting and all this. But that has been our episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, wherever you may be. Go watch some of these great scenes and go have a great day. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Bye.